I need you to stay with me until the end of this. Because what happened in my backyard on the 11th night, I still don't have the right words for it. But I'm going to try. And by the time I'm done, I think you'll understand why I haven't slept the same way since. There is a version of this story that started long before I was born, long before this house existed, before the road that leads to it was paved, before anyone drew a map of this part of Louisiana at all. In that version, 2 Pokémon owned the same jungle and both of them knew it. And neither one was willing to be the one who left. Zeraora came from speed, not just physical speed, the kind of speed that exists before decision, before thought, before the signal even leaves the brain. He didn't choose his movements. They happened, and he followed. Lightning given a body and told to figure it out. His strikes didn't arrive. They were simply suddenly there. By the time you registered the motion, it was 3 moves ago. Zarude came from something older and slower and far more patient. He came from the ground itself, from root systems that stretch for miles beneath soil no human foot has touched, from vines that remember every creature that ever passed through their canopy. He didn't move through the jungle. He was the jungle, choosing to take a shape for a while. And when he fought, I didn't know any of this when I found the 7 Pokémon balls. I wish someone had told me. It was a Thursday, late afternoon, low light. The bayou doing what the bayou does, making the world feel like it's held just slightly underwater. I was 3 miles past the last official trail marker when the ground changed. Not the terrain, not the vegetation, the ground itself. The mud went darker. The trees pulled closer together. The sounds changed. And in the center of a clearing I had never seen before and have not been able to find since, arranged around a cypress stump so old it had gone silver, were 7 Pokémon balls. Placed in a deliberate circle. Patient. Like they had been waiting a very specific amount of time, and that amount of time was almost up. I should have left them there. I know that now, but I picked them up one by one and carried them home in my pack, and the whole 3-mile walk back, the pack felt heavier than the math said it should. I set them on the kitchen floor in the same circle I found them, stepped back, and watched. Zeraora, already moving before fully formed. Zarude. First thing he touched was the floor. Felt it. Vaporeon. Assessed the room like a blueprint. Arcanine hit the floor running. Literally. Gardevoir. Felt the room before she saw it. Lucario. Decided something about me in 2 seconds. Umbreon. Was there. Then wasn't. Then was again. 6 of them settled into the house by nightfall. Vaporeon chose the bathroom. I found her in the empty tub at midnight, eyes open, water running slowly from the tap she had figured out herself. Arcanine stationed himself at the front door and stayed there, chest forward, eyes on the street, running some calculation about threat levels I was not invited to understand. Gardevoir drifted to the far corner of the living room and stood with her eyes closed and her hands at her sides, like she was listening to a frequency the house was putting out that I couldn't hear. Lucario inspected every room systematically. Umbreon I stopped tracking on day 2. He was simply there when the lights were off and gone when they came on, and I decided to make peace with that arrangement. And Zarude went straight to the yard. Pressed one open palm against the bark of the oldest oak. Zeraora did not settle. Zeraora paced the perimeter of every room in a pattern that never repeated, and every time he passed Zarude's direction through the back window, Zarude was already standing at the center. He hadn't walked there. He was simply there, like the arena had assembled itself around him, because maybe it had. His eyes were on the far wall. Zeraora came through the arena wall like electricity through wire. No warning, no entrance, The 5 others moved to the arena walls without anyone directing them. Lucario stood with his arms crossed, reading every angle. Gardevoir pressed one hand to her chest. Arcanine leaned forward so far he was barely standing. Vaporeon sat exactly where the root wall met the grass and did not blink. Umbreon positioned himself above the arena on the highest root, and the fight began. Zeraora crossed the distance in a single frame. Zarude's roots erupted upward, 3 of them, fast, and caught nothing. Zeraora was already behind him, plasma burning white off both fists, striking before the terrain could close. Once, twice, the 3rd strike landed and Zarude moved with it, rolling. I made coffee at 4 a.m. and brought it outside without thinking about it. The way you do things in the middle of the night when your hands know what to do before your brain does. 7 Pokémon in the backyard, in the quiet, in the dark, before dawn. Zarude sat with his back against the oak tree he had touched on, day 1. Zeraora sat 3 feet away, arms resting on his knees, the electricity in him finally calm for the first time since I had known him. The other 5 arranged themselves in the grass without ceremony. No hierarchy. No distance. Just 7 things that had each in their own way been carrying something heavy for a very long time and had set it down tonight, here, in this yard, in the deep south, in a place where the ground is older than the maps. I sat with them until the sun came up. None of us said anything. There was nothing to say. Some endings don't need words. They just need witnesses. I think that's why they came here. Because this place, my yard, my house, my ordinary street in Louisiana, needed to be the witness. And I happened to be standing in it when the swamp went looking for one. The mirror we have been avoiding. The argument we have been having with ourselves for so long, we forgot what started it. The fight only ends when we are finally willing to stop long enough to recognize what we have been reaching for underneath all the noise. It was never about winning. Was it Zeraora's patience at the end, Zarude's 1,000 years of waiting, or one of the 5 who showed up at that arena wall without being asked? Just because they knew they were supposed to be there? Tell me in the comments. And if there's a specific Pokémon you want to see in the next episode, name them. I build these stories around what you want to see. Subscribe if this one stayed with you. Because what comes next, what was already moving in that swamp the night I walked out with 7 Pokémon balls,